Hits and Crits. This video is brought to you by Trading Goblin.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of our Season 3 review with Imperial Minis. Randall's here again. Welcome, Randall. Great to have you.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here.
Today, we're talking about Baratheons. So actually, I would say, are they coming in second, maybe third of my most favorite factions? I really like to play them. I like the passive-aggressive play style they do, and a lot of armor, and you're pretty much going on your opponent's nerves really with that armor and the shenanigans they can do on the tactics board and heal back. Really depends on the side. I really love the two options of playing them, right? With Randall and Stannis, they are really different. So I really like the faction. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Baratheons are pretty cool.
They've always been kind of always the bridesmaid, never the bride faction for me. I have the faction, I own all the units, but I don't get a chance to put them on the table as often as I do my other main factions. But I've always liked Baratheon and continue to like them. So I'm excited for the talk.
Yeah. My to be honest, like the real big reason I started with Baratheons, like back in the day, was the Rose Knights. But we will talk about that later because I just love the sculpts. But before we lose ourselves in fluff and thematic and sculpts, let's jump right into the attachments. So let's kick it off with the Stag Knight Noble. So Randall, tell me about the changes and how do you feel about them?
So biggest change is it went from 2 points to 1 point, and for that 1 point cost reduction, they lost Stubborn Tenacity. So now they still have Iron Resolve and they have Go Down Fighting. I think it's still a good attachment. I really liked throwing this unit into a really tanky unit like a Warden or Queensman previously, because it would give you that passive damage from Stubborn Tenacity. So the change makes them cheaper, but the only passive damage you get is when you lose ranks, which you don't really want to do as Baratheons. You don't want to take a bunch of hits, or you don't want to take a lot of wounds. But I can see now at 1 point I could see throwing them into like R'hllor Faithful, or even throw them into Golden Company Swords in offensive mode to do some passive damage back. So I don't dislike the change. I really liked Stubborn Tenacity, but I think I just need to try out some possible uses for it to figure out where they belong now. But I don't hate the change. Iron Resolve is still a powerful ability on its own, pretty much I would say worth 1 point. And Go Down Fighting is not an ability you really ever want to pay for. It's always one of those abilities that's just kind of thrown in as an extra. So I still like the Stag Knight Noble. I just have to figure out where to put him. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, the old one, I actually tried that a few times in the Role of Faithful, but with the old Mel. So a lot of times I triggered panic tests on them, and they, because of their really, really good morale, and with even +1 through the Stag Knight Noble, they almost like each time passed the test. So you could do the old Mel somewhere, or now the new one too. You could do that, and you trigger the successful panic test, deal out passive damage or attrition damage to your opponent. So I tried that before, and it worked really well. I think it can still work, but from my point of view, the Stag Knight Noble now is just more usable across several units, and before it was more like, you can put them in Role of Faithful, for me at least. You can maybe put it in the Stag Knights, but now it's more usable across the board. So that's my key takeaway from the change, since the point reduction is big, and now it's just more usable, more diverse in how it is played.
Yeah, I feel like before I would use him as I would build around him. I would build lists with the Noble in mind. So he'd be part of like
Yeah.
my gimmick. Like my gimmick would be
Yeah.
spamming a bunch of morale and panic tests on my own guys to deal auto wounds, and turning a relatively cheap unit into an expensive unit. But now he's kind of a little bit more of, when you have that extra point, maybe you'll take him instead of something else. So yeah.
All right, so that's it for the noble. Let's go to Justin Messe. So he got his threaten changed. Threaten got changed across
universally,
season 3. So, and that is a really good change. And we all know how big threaten can be. We all know how intense or how important weakened tokens can be. The only thing I'm wondering about, I really like the change, but it's still 2 points. And when we had that during your Lannister video, so Tyrion Lannister has counter strategy and battle plan, and just Messe has battle plan and threaten, and I don't really see the 1-on-1 point, the other 1-on-2. So that's the only thing I see. So I think at some point, I really don't know if threaten is better or more worth than counter strategy. For me, I just played it yesterday. Counter strategy is a big order. So yeah, that's the only thing I'm wondering about. But I like the change, because threaten got way better for everyone, so that's good. But yeah, still wondering about the cost.
Yeah, I know threaten. I think threaten, you can be more sure of using it more often, or in more rounds than perhaps counter strategy. Which counter strategy, you have to kind of position yourself in the right spot,
in close range.
And threaten, you can position yourself a little farther out, and you always are going to have some kind of target for it. So I don't know. I'm not sure how they value points on the development team, but I do agree there is a bit of a disparity there. And I know in our Lannister video we did talk about what a huge points change that was for Tyrion to go from 2 to 1. So yeah, maybe Justin will get another look in a future patch, but we'll see. For now, I'm happy for the threaten change though. It's good.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so my most favorite change is on Courtney Penrose, attachment and commander. Let's start with the attachment. So his I can't remember the name, but now it's Might of Throne.
Yeah, it was called Orders of the Crown. So he lost Orders of the Crown.
Yeah. Exactly, and
now he has Might of the Throne.
Yeah, exactly. So Might of Throne, or Might of the Throne, is just great for him, because like back then he was just able to move units, and now he makes each and every unit more aggressive and more you can pull off that much, especially with units we will talk about soon, about like Thornwatch or other units, those that can make a free charge is big, right? Especially when we look at the commander, but also the attachment is quite a good thing, because you as a Baratheon player, you tend to block the crown and the letters. So these and crown is usually not the most important tactic zone for most factions. So really it comes into play, right? The crown. So your opponent really has to think about blocking crown now, which otherwise will be used by you to do a free charge or whatever. So yeah, I really like the change on the attachment.
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's a shame that Courtney is such a great NCU and like such a staple NCU. Otherwise, I think he'd be getting taken as a commander a lot more. I think he will get taken as a commander a lot more. And as an attachment now. Yeah. And I mean, as an attachment, even his attachment could be crazy. It's just, he's one of those guys that lives in the shadow of his NCU a little bit. So, you could see some really crazy stuff with his attachment. Even you put him in Thornwatch. I mean, it makes it an 8-point unit, but now it's Thornwatch is a unit that has the potential to have a free attack, a free charge, and when it charges, it can swift retreat out, and then that's not even its activation. It can use tactical reposition to shimmy into a flank or something. So Yeah, I think if a Renly player doesn't take Courtney as an NCU, then the new Courtney attachment could definitely be an option if you have a couple of points to squeeze him in. And then his commander is even more powerful now. His commander wants to give extra attacks with like issue commands, and now he kind of has the kind of Kevin Lannister ability, the what's it called, Might of the Throne. So he can kind of do similar things to so yeah, I think that's a huge change. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too. So as you said, that was also my initial thinking. A lot of times you take his NCU, so that's why his commander is not played. But I think with the Varys change, I think there are options where you just will, because Courtney Penrose's commander is a great commander. Not only even before, right? Because he has counterplot and he has issue commands like in one go, right? You get into your deck, into a Baratheon deck, you get counterplot and you get issue commands, which are both great cards, right? And now with Varys on the side, I think we will see that happen way more often. And I tried it once with where I put him into the Thornwatch, as you said, right? And so they can do so much now with their change. We will look at into that later, but they can potentially charge twice, right? And strike, retreat, regroup, and position themselves somewhere on the battlefield. It's so satisfying. So all you Baratheons player out there, please try Courtney Penrose commander now and leave the NCU for now. Just try it and see what suits you best, but it's a great commander now.
Yeah, and like you said, he was already a great commander. He has issue commands, counterplot. He has surprise strategy, so he can grab one of those cards out of the discard pile when he needs to. He's got bookkeeping on his commander card. Yeah, and bookkeeping, super powerful ability to give you additional cards in your hand. So totally. If you any Baratheon players who haven't been playing them recently should definitely give them another shot.
Now he's up there. All right, so that's on the attachments / commanders attachments. So let's jump to units, and we will kick it off with my most favorite sculpt, as I said, Rose Knights. So Rose Knights, one intro sentence from my side. The change was really needed. For me, Rose Knights never felt like a 7-point unit, really, because of the bad morale. Mostly also because of attacking, but that's not the most important thing in that unit either way. Because of the morale. And now with the buff on the attack ranks, attack dice per rank, and the better morale, now they feel like a 7-point unit for me. What do you make of them?
Yeah, I think they started off when they came out as a good 7-point unit, because they had Dauntless. They lost Dauntless, right? They had Dauntless, so they were always triggering all these auto wounds, off of Dauntless, off of Perseverance and Valor. So I think their original points cost was pretty fair, and then they lost. Then they got nerfed, and then nobody really would take them anymore except for style points, because they have like such beautiful sculpts. But now they do feel like a good frontline 7-point unit. They have the defensive stats of like a Queensman. I think they have the same defensive stats as Queensman.
Yes, exactly.
They want to brawl. They want to get stuck into melee. So I think they're great now. I like them. It's just they're part of that conversation that we always have to have now. Of they're a 7-point infantry unit. Do you take them over Golden Company swords? But I don't know. I think they're a fair alternative. They are still a 4-speed unit, so they are still slow to get to the fight. That's, I think, one of the only things holding them back at this point. But otherwise, it's good change.
Yeah, on the Golden Company, I would just say it really depends on the commander. When you play certain Renleys and you have that big of a healing potential, and you can deal those deadly bloom wounds. I think it really depends on the commander, which one is better. Yeah, so it really comes down to the commander. All right, so that's on the Rose Knights. Rainbow Guard. Rainbow Guard, everyone was wondering, why is that 8 points? It really feels like just a different King's Guard. Why is King's Guard 6? Why is that 8?
Yeah,
and
they
in
were
the
dead
end, we
on
can
arrival.
just say, yeah, exactly. They were just, it was just a misprint on the card, let's say, right? Now it's 6 points. And now it feels for me, we come to that later, but together with the changes on the Renly 3 tactics cards, now this unit will see play and is actually usable now. Before that, for 8 points, I tried it once, and it was so weird to play that. We were trying just to have a thematic match from between King's Guard and Rainbow Guard, and it was just, I lost during turn 3. Right? It's like it just feels weird. So yeah.
So I'm still not sold on him. So I do like Renly 3, and we're going to talk more about him. But Renly 3 doesn't have to go in Rainbow Guard. I think if they were 6 points when they came out, they would have received more play. But right now in this new meta, this new precision crazy meta, I think a unit with 8 wounds on it is just going to be like kind of puckering itself every time it's getting shot by something or in combat with something that has the potential to throw precision at it, because you can go from 8 wounds to 4 wounds or something from a really unlucky precision roll from your opponent, and that's not a good place to be. They do hit just as hard on 1 rank as 2 ranks, which is good, but yeah, I don't know. They're more usable now, but I still don't see myself taking them. I would like to try them, but I'm just still a little bit scared of an 8-point retinue unit in this precision meta that we're in. But we'll see. I'm open to trying them. They're at least usable now. I'd like to test with them.
Yeah.
Before I would have brought them just for laughs.
Yeah, true. I mean, the banners you have great healing potential. I mean, you can really heal back with your banners, but actually, for such a unit, like back in the day, for 8 points, you really want to hit something and kill something with it. And a lot of times when, like back then, you use the banners just for healing. So, or at least I did. So, and I think now with 6 points, you can build a unit or an army around it, which is good enough to have a competition on the table. And before that, those 2 points are quite heavy. To lose that in 1 unit, and as you said, for 8 points, yeah, that wasn't really worth it. And now they're usable.
Yeah, and they do have rally points, so they can make somewhat squishier units around them a little bit more durable. And as always with Renly lists, there's always kind of that play you can do with Brienne for free attacks and free charges, and all kinds of movement shenanigans with Renly lists. So yeah,
but Brienne will be in the Rainbow Guard then.
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right.
So never mind. Yeah,
you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah,
because she's
but you can use Sentinels. Yeah, you can use Sentinels though with them now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that's on the Rainbow Guard. So I think, yeah, just give it a try. Let's look at it. How I will try them, but let's see. Okay, so next one, the Sentinels. We just mentioned them. They got their point reduced. That's the most important, and they also got a change on the attack dice. But I think the most crucial one is that they are on 5 points now. So they never felt like 6 points. They were just too squishy, right? Because when you brought them in, they were dead right away. So now with 5 points, I mean, that didn't change, but now it's 5 points. And I think with the right attachment, you can build a Baratheon list with Sundering which you normally have no access to. And now on 5 points, that can really do something. I could even think about an army having 2 sentinels, basically going over flanks with sentinels and basically going around your opponent and just hitting from the sides while you block the center with all your armor. So that could really work. On 5 points, I think, again, with the right attachment, that could really work.
Yeah, it's a change that's long been called for, and I'm happy they were changed. I think we'll actually see some of them now. Kind of going back to what I was saying about Renly 3, I could see putting Renly 3 in there because he's got Swift Strike, so you can Sentinel charge something and then pop out with Swift Strike. You could even see them maybe pairing with some of the new Baratheon halberdiers, as your kind of slightly softer front line, but they have taunt, so you can maybe keep stuff engaged a little bit longer and have your sentinels attacking flanks, and then your entire front line now has sundering because the halberdiers have sundering, the sentinels have sundering, and then if you throw a thorn watch in there, those guys also shoot with sundering crossbows. So I'm excited to see what list building potentials are opened up with the sentinels at 5 points. I think they're not a complete joke anymore, and I would expect to maybe see them here and there.
Agree.
And in like an offensively focused Baratheon list.
Yeah, absolutely. So next one is the Stag Knights. So got their attack dice or the attack profile reduced from 777 to 765. So that's a big one. But now they have to compete with the Golden Company. Really, that's what I really see.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, so this was a big change. Stag Knights were a unit that I think a lot of Baratheon players liked, but rarely took because they cost as much as
eight points.
At 8 points they cost as much as a Champions of the Stag. Now at 7 points they're a little bit easier to consider taking, but then now you bump into the question of now they're competing with all the other 7-point infantry in the game. They no longer have that gimmick that they always had of being total chads down to the last man. Now they actually have a kind of a standard dice decay of 7, 6, 5. I mean, it's slightly better than average. But now they're going to compare with Queensmen, with Rose Knights, with Golden Company swords. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, I think, for them, even at 7 points now to really get taken that much more, because there's just so much competition at that point level, and they have resilience, which can take a big hit, but there's also so much precision out there that's going to punch through the resilience. There's lots of people taking Varys who are going to maybe throw free hits at them, and then you're going to have to choose whether to use your resilience for those free hits or for the big hit that's coming at you, and they only save on a 4+. So I mean, it's an interesting change that it's gonna shake them up quite a bit. I think it'll make them get possibly taken more often because they're not 8 points, but I don't know if they're going to be taken seriously or if they're still going to be taken as kind of just a fun unit. And they really don't get turned up to high value until later in the game, and by that point, oftentimes the game is already kind of decided, or they might find themselves in a part of the battlefield that is inconsequential or something. So it's a lot of points to sink into a unit that it's kind of uncertain value. So I'm not sure where these guys are really gonna land now at even at 7 points, but we'll see.
Yeah, they have to find their role still. That's what I also feel. Now with this profile and those points, they really have to see where they fit. But I'm still sure, or I'm sure there will be lists, or there are lists around, I already see, where they certainly have a big role in the army, and they are still a good unit, right? I mean, through them becoming better and better each round. That also is a thing that can be really strong, like starting 4, 5, 6 in rounds 4, 5, 6. That can really turn the tide in some matches. And the healing potential is at least on Renly's side quite big. So I think you have the tools to get them or to hold them at 3 or 2 ranks, and together with the resilience, together with what is it? It's not Battle
Stag's
Stars.
Fury. Stag's Fury.
Yeah, exactly. It's they're getting better and better, and I think that has its spot in a lot of Baratheon units, armies. So yeah, that's it for me on Stags. Yeah. Let's see. So last one.
Yeah, we have the Thorn Watch. Is the
Thorn Watch.
Last big one, right?
Last big one, Thornwatch. I really have to think about the Ranger Hunters now, because they got nerfed on the ranged attack profile to 4, which I said last a few weeks back. That change is really huge, right, for the Ranger Hunters, and it was needed, and it's fair, everything's cool. But with the Thornwatch now on having both on 3, this unit is so strong. And I tried it like 3 or 4 times now. This unit, when played well, and pushed into a flank, charges in, goes out, regroups, and they deal out so much damage over time. They're not a one-hitter unit, right? But they basically do both. They hurt you quite a bit, go out, and basically are full again. And they're so versatile, because a lot of times horses are open and they can still like move into a good position to shoot, right? And as you said, they shoot with Sundering, but they can also charge in and out and heal back. So it's such a versatile unit, which works so well, especially, as I said, with Courtney Commander or Courtney Attachment. You could even think about I forgot his name. It's a 2-point attachment. It's what's his name?
Robar Royce, that one.
Yeah, exactly. Robar
Furious
Royce,
Charge, right? Reckless Strikes,
yeah, and Reckless Strikes, right? Because they wouldn't really care about the Reckless Strikes. They go in, they deal a lot of damage, deal a vulnerable, do a lot of damage. I mean, if you roll well, but still, potentially you do. And then you go out and you heal back the wounds you might have taken. So right. Also, for me, great unit. It's if Renly's side, that's an obvious pick for me now, with my play style and list building. Yeah.
No, Thornwatch have always been kind of one of those scalpel units that I made a video where I was talking about Boltons before Boltons came out, and I mentioned that the Bolton Bastard Girls are kind of that unit that sets the good players apart from the average players, because if you're a good player, those things are just going to run roughshod over your opponent. If you're a bad player like me, you charge them in and they just get dropped to like 1 wound in the first, after the first attack. The Thornwatch are kind of the same way. They're a little squishy, but if you're using them correctly, your opponent just doesn't even know what to do about it, because you're popping into combat, you're popping out of combat, you're shooting, you're charging, you're retreating, and they just feel like they're just totally getting spun around and just just done dirty. So I think they're one of those high skill cap units, and now them going from a 4+ to 3+ to hit just makes them even more deadly, and now makes them deadly even when they're stuck in a combat. So before, when you're stuck in a combat rolling on 4+, it does not feel good at all. But now when they're a 3+ and they're stuck in combat, they have a little bit more of a chance of killing what they're stuck with. But obviously Thornwatch never wants to be stuck. They want to be fighting on their own terms. But now if you are stuck, or even if you're just charging, you're going to have a better chance of dealing significant damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Pikeman Captain is also a big attachment for them, with boldness and courage, right? Buffing both, and you're both on 3. It's just a good unit now. It's a really, really good unit. They really moved up the ranks through that change. So try them out. try them out
Yeah,
definitely.
for 6 points, very, very good unit.
6 points, yeah. So
Mhm.
that's it for units, I think. Let's go to
Yeah.
as you said, what? Ding Dong, the witch is dead.
Yeah, the NCU change, Melisandre. Yep,
The
the
NCU
witch is
change.
definitely dead.
Yeah, the witch is dead. So she's going. So she basically stayed the same, but now she get a range restriction, right? So she needs to target a unit, and only out of long range, out of this unit, she can do this big panic damage, which is a good change, a needed change, just in terms of how good or bad a match feels. And I tried it several times, even the Mel Jacques bomb stuff. Everyone tried it, everyone's seen it, but it just for both sides, I never enjoyed that, and never seen an opponent feeling good about it, right? Because it just feels bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the stone thrower thing, right? You're standing there, you're setting up yourself, you're moving up a little bit, positioning yourself on the right manner, and there is something that you could just not do anything about it, right? And that is a good change for Mel, and I think that she's still usable. I seen them or I seen her play during when I went to Rotterdam. I played a battle report with Jerome from the Rotterdam White Scars, and he used Mel, and it's still a good NCU, even with this nerve. She's not really nerfed. You just have to play or position yourself better, and you use them a little later, but she's still good, and she's still worth the points. So that's it. That's it for me on Mel.
Yeah, she can't orbital strike anymore, so she can't
Yeah.
just nuke stuff in your backfield anymore. Like, solo Jorah doesn't have to pucker up anymore and wait to be scared off the battlefield. So she's pretty much going to be useless in round one in most situations. And the Jack and Mel combo, I think, is going to be gone for now. I don't know whether the developers are going to re-examine her later and maybe drop her from 5 points to 4 points if they see nobody is taking her. But yeah, it was definitely a needed change. It didn't feel good for the player on the receiving end, especially for the Mel Jackin casino or whatever people called it. And unless you're a total dirtbag, it doesn't feel good to be the active player doing it to people. I've been on the receiving end of it, and a friend of mine played the Mel Jackin list against me, and I was playing Greyjoys, and in round one, he nuked my Ironborn Bowman off of the field, before they had even activated, I think. And I just looked at him. I just said, dude, what are we doing? I'm done. Let's reset. We're gonna use your other list, or we're done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play this game. So, but yeah, I'm glad she got nerfed. I don't like the way that play style affects Baratheons. I didn't like it, so I'm glad it's off, that she's off the table. Like you said, she's still usable if you really want to, but I'm glad she's not the go-to. If you really want to min-max your Baratheon list, you're going to take her. So I'm glad she's an option now. A choice that has obvious downsides rather than a auto include for a lot of lists.
Yeah. All right. That's on the NCU change, and now we go to tactics cards. And let's start with the base deck. The most important for me is Baratheon Justice. Baratheon Justice, and we talked about it before. Both of us think the change was really needed. I never felt that this tactics card needs a change, but it's still there, so they can't deal out the rainbow anymore. The weaken is gone. The except of threaten, Baratheons do not really have the opportunity to deal out weaken. So I don't like, or I don't see the change, why it happened. And especially I really like to play Queensman, sometimes even Kingsman with the right attachment, but Queensman got already a little nerf through season 2. because they cannot decide anymore which one to take, the Baratheon Conviction or the Baratheon Justice. And now they can only do Justice, and the card got significantly worse. So that's a and not for me, not a good combination of two patches right head to head or back to back, right? So, yeah.
This was a unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. The Baratheons, it's like, it seems like on the Stannis side especially, they just keep getting like nipped at, and the Queensmen really didn't need to get kicked in the nuts again by getting this Baratheon Justice nerf. So I don't think it was necessary, but there it is. So we'll see what it. I mean, Baratheons aren't doing spectacular right now. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not going to complain about it. Well, I guess I did just complain about it, but I'm not going to complain more about
it. Yeah, sure. Let's see how it plays, but yeah. Okay, so the other change, Sustained Assault. Randall, what do you make of the change on Sustained Assault?
So this one changed is like a universal change. Sustained Assault changed in all of its various uses around the other factions as well. So this one's kind of one of those debatable nerfs/buffs. Just depends on the unit and depends on the situation. So Sustained Assault has two different abilities. So one is when you're attacking a unit, if you began engaged with them, you roll your highest attack die value. And then the other ability was if the defender has more remaining ranks than the attacker or the defender becomes vulnerable. So these were two separate ones. So one wasn't dependent on the other. They were just both different effects. But now the first effect remained the same. The second effect changed to if the defender has more remaining ranks than the attacker, it may re-roll any attack dice. So this is really now only, they made it more useful for being engaged. So the first ability is about being engaged, and the second ability now is really only useful if you're engaged. So it used to be that even if you weren't engaged and you want to charge something, you could play Sustained Assault, and now you give them a vulnerable token. Yeah, almost basically like giving yourself Furious Charge. That was really the only use for that in that situation. But now it's completely useless in a charging situation because you're already going to get rerolls unless you flubbed your charge. And then now with Golden Company swords getting rerolls all the time, it's less useful for that. And I don't know. What do you think, Chris? What are your thoughts on this one?
The only thing I can add is that Sustained Assault, for me, is or has ever been one of the worst cards in the Baratheon tactics deck, which is generally quite good, or in general quite a good tactics deck. But Sustained Assault was, at least when you draw it in round 1, 2, 3, even 4, maybe, you pick it up and you will just throw it for other cards like Conviction, Final Strike, Justice. There are cards that are way more important in round 1 to maximum 4. So Sustained Assault has been a good card in round 5, 6, especially in certain situations, especially when I think about Champions of the Stack getting beaten down, but still standing, right? Because they are still standing in the end most of the time. So for those units, or maybe Stag Knights, Rose Knights, all those units that can take a beating, they needed that card end game, but a lot of times it gets thrown away. And now with this nerf on this card, it will be thrown away even more and consistently. So that's the only thing I can add. I don't like the change. So
I don't know. Maybe we can call it a buff to Justin Massey 2-point attachment, because it gives you a card you're even more sure you want to discard with Battle Plan.
A shadow buff.
Yeah, to Justin Massey.
Yeah, exactly. So that's on the base deck. Let's talk about the Renly 3 we already talked about on Lavish Encampment and Knights or Night of Summer, whatever. Knights of Summer. Knights of Summer. So yeah, you take it away. You I said or we said before, the punishment basically fell, or got way less. So now with the 6-point unit and both together, it's quite, or it can be quite useful. But what do you make of the changes of the cards?
Yeah, so they're both buffs. Renly 3's cards were interesting, but they had some limits and some serious drawbacks, some of them. So this change kind of rectifies some of that. So Knights of Summer got buffed. So now if Renly's unit is the target of it, all enemies in short range of him take a panic test instead of just the one unit just he's engaged with. So yeah, so now you can get him up there, pop this, and then cause panic all around you. Then Renly's affiliation doesn't really lean into the panic game, so that you're probably not going to have a bunch of panic modifiers. But at the end of the day, multiple panic tests are always a good thing and can cause wounds. So it's a buff. I mean, it's a buff. You can use it to blow out some panic tests around you, which is good. And then you want me to talk about Lavish Encampment, or did you want to?
Sure. Just
okay.
In one go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Lavish Encampment is, to me, a big buff. I think this is even a bigger buff than Knights of Summer. So Lavish Encampment used to allow you to pull enemy NCUs off of a zone after they claimed it, but then you always took some kind of a penalty for which zone you pulled them off of, for I think all zones except for the maneuver zone. I think that was the only one that didn't have a penalty. And it no longer penalizes you based on which zone you're pulling them off of. It just allows you to pull them off and move them. But now it adds a bonus that if you pull them off of the crown or tactic zone, you get a bonus for doing that. So it's a great card that allows you to play the kind of tactic zone game. So I really love effects that kind of interplay with the tactics board and increase the interaction with the tactics board. I think the tactics board is undoubtedly the kind of competitive advantage that this game has over a lot of games. It just adds like this 4-dimensional chess, like kind of like 4D chess of this game, adding that tactics board. So effects that interact with it are awesome. I'd like to see what people do with this new version of the card in conjunction with other effects that deal with the tactics board, like Alistair Florent NCU and Courtney NCU, so you can do all that kind of tactics board, mind game, zone moving shenanigans. So now you can do that without worrying about the penalties that this card used to give you. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, nothing to add really. I think it's really interesting to see it how it is played out, and now with this 6-point unit. Which or in which it will mostly be, right? I think now on 6 points. So I think the combination is really good. So let's see how that plays out. Yeah. So nothing to add there. For me, one of the second in line is younger, bolder, and far more calmly. So that card is so much better now. It doesn't sound like much when you read through it, but when you see it in play, when you see it how it is, how it is in reality, it synergizes so well with Rose Knights and with the Lord Commander Loras attachment, for example. It gives so much more to the Renly side if played in certain units with Deadly Bloom. So crazy good card now in general, because even I seen it in play against or in on the Golden Company Swordsman, but especially on the Golden Company Crossbowman too. So to give the extra attack die is really good, and at the same time healing. It's such a great card now. So what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't seem like much to just add healing one wound when you activate, but when you think of it in the context of what Renly lists want to do and Deadly Bloom, when you think about that, it's huge, because really if you put it in the right unit, that one wound you heal is often going to get reflected back on a unit that you're engaged with. So really, in the right situation, it's heal one wound, deal one wound, which is great. And especially when you combine it with other abilities that do auto wounds, like Perseverance and Valor. If it's a Deadly Bloom unit that has that also, you're going to be doing
Heals
it's
too.
like heals 2, deals 2. You're doing this kind of death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing that that Deadly Bloom and the Renly side likes to do. So I think it looks insignificant on paper, but when you think about how it actually impacts the army, it's potentially pretty big. So I think it's a really cool change.
Yeah, me too. So the most important, but before we go to the most important, because Randall and I had talked about it, our most important card is coming up soon. But before that, there were several changes, but we will just summarize it by saying, or there was Fury Charge, Fury Resolve, Martial Superiority from Eldon Estamont. There was also
Counterplot from Courtney.
And Rolla's Name, Test of Faith, and all those. So basically what happens in those is a general theme in season 3 patch. So punishment got reduced off of cards for the unit that plays it, or what's also a general theme is that you do not have to spend tokens anymore to get a certain benefit out of the card. So we've seen that happening on those, and we just leave it at that because we think that those changes won't impact how you play the certain commanders, or how often you play them, or how you build lists around them. So let's just summarize it in that. It's a general season 3 patch, and all of them good. All of them good, because we covered some of them during the Stark video, during the Lannister video. So in general, we really feel really good about those changes, but we won't cover them in depth now. So let's go to the most important. We both feel is growing strong. So growing strong on the Loras commander lets us. I will give it to you soon. Lets us peek into the future a little bit, what will happen on the Baratheon side. So Randall has a strong theory about that, and I'll let you take that away. So how about you, Pete? Tell about the card first, and then about your expectations of this.
So the card changed from being triggered after friendly unit attacks to on activation. And then it used to be kind of like a fueled by slaughter ability and healed more if it was Loras's unit. So now it can hand out vulnerable tokens and heals the unit based on its destroyed ranks and doesn't talk about Loras at all. So putting on my tinfoil hat for a minute, looking at this, this change was kind of buried in. Yeah, I should have. I should have had. I need to get my prop box for future videos. But looking at this, this was kind of lost in the whole change log of multiple tactics cards. But I think this is possibly one of the more significant ones, not necessarily because it makes Loras like insane or anything, but more like this is me kind of reading the tea leaves of what this card's change means. And I think this change, it's thematically more important or more appropriate, I would say. But more importantly, I think it's a good indication that this card is eventually going to be a base tactics card in the Tyrell mini faction. So growing strong is the Tyrell's house motto. It's their words or whatever. So this used to have a Loras specific effect, but now it doesn't. So and it looks like very appropriate as a base tactics card. If you were to think about it as a factions based tactics card, Absolutely. It seems very appropriate for that. So I'm going to call it now. You can mark the date and the time that I'm calling this card as being in the base tactics deck of the Tyrell mini faction.
I'll write that down. Yeah,
I actually think I already called it in one of my Bolted videos. I mentioned it in one of my Bolted videos. I showed Loras's growing strong card and called it there even before this change. So I'm going to say even before that, I called it like 2 months ago, but I'm calling it again. And then I think possibly even Overgrowth maybe carried over as a base tactics card. And
Absolutely.
I'm excited for the change, not necessarily because it makes Loras, insane or anything, but just because to me it was kind of a cheeky little inclusion by Simon to kind of start nudging this card into the direction of being carried over into a Tyrell mini faction. And if that's the case, maybe that means the Tyrell mini faction is coming sooner than we think, because the next patch for this game might not come until the spring sometime. So for all we know, this change is getting thrown in here because they've already got the Tyrell mini faction in production. Who knows?
Who knows?
It could be.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly. So actually, I called it too. Like, not in a video, but we had quite some discussions around when the last patch went around, or came around, and the Boltons got their reveal, and we were talking about like mini factions in general when the Boltons hit, and I was saying that the quickest win, or the easiest fruit to pick, is to take the Tyrells, right? Because there are several
100%.
units available already. So it's actually like with the Boltons, right? A lot of players,
very much equivalent.
Exactly. So all the Baratheon players have the Riders of High Garden, the Thornwatch, the Rose Knights for sure. So there is actually something out. So they will they just have to add whatever 2 units, some kind of maybe a long range unit, maybe one a little bit more aggressive unit, which is a little bit more out, not like passively doing damage, but actively doing damage, kind of like the Riders of High Garden, but maybe a little bit more in fight aggressive, not like one charge and then hit and run.
A little bit more of a brawler unit or something.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that. So I was also like even before that, I was thinking that is the quickest win for a mini faction. It's easy to do. And now that I see the change, so I was really interested when you talked about it. I was like, yeah, well, he really has a point there. So I'm fully with you on that one. I believe you.
And I have no inside knowledge. Neither of us have any inside knowledge.
Sure.
Just 100% just reading a crystal ball of what I see in front of me.
Yeah, but I can really see that. One sentence from my side of the card again on the rules is, I seen that card like even before that really sometimes turn the tide in matches, and especially now with this vulnerable and this easy heal, also can really do something. Especially when you think about Loras Commander and his tactics cards together with this card, the other ones, and Growing Strong makes Loras for me even a step further, because a lot of times you see Renly, right? Renly 2, a lot of times, right? So due to obvious reasons, I really get that. It's a little bit like the One True, not the One True King, the Rightful Heir Stannis, right? With tactical approach. It's like an easy thing to pull off. It's a little bit on the Renly side too. But now with this change, I see Loras moving up the ranks in terms of how often he gets played as a commander. So that's the thing I really see in this card. And I'm really happy to see that, because Loras is a really important character in the books. He got a little bit, in the show, he's not really, that important when you compare it to the books. So I really, I really like how he gets into the spotlight now with this change.
Yeah,
which will be definitely the case. So that rounds it up for all the changes, the most crucial ones we see. So again, as always, if you have different opinions, you have some feedback, you want to talk with us, just drop it down at the comment below, the comment section below, or jump on our Discord, and we're happy to have the discussion with you on the Baratheon faction. Any last words from you, Randall, before we
no, happy to be here. Great talking to you about the Baratheons, and looking forward to the next video, which is going to be a video on Greyjoys. So that one might be a little bit longer than our it'll be on Imperial Minis, which might be a little bit longer of a video because the entire faction was shaken up, but I'll try to keep us on track and not make it too
big
and make it too
change.
hard to get through. Yeah.
Exactly. So watch out for that. We will launch it soon. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.
And goodbye.
Come for the hits and stay for the crits.